Good morning, everybody. Well, it's just literally good morning. Welcome to the latest webinar from Chapman Robinson Moore Accountants and Business Advisors. I'm delighted to have with us today Lucy Eckley from Build Your Brand Story. Hopefully you've seen from the introduction of information you've signed up to this webinar today that Lucy's going to share with us her expertise around branding, particularly personal branding and communications. So I've got a number of questions that I've established I'm going to ask Lucy, but it will be your opportunity during this webinar to ask Lucy any questions that you may have as we go along. Just want to check that you can hear me. I'm not talking to myself, or we're talking to ourselves. If you can hear me, in the chat box you'll see on the right hand side, if you just put a yes or a Y there for me, I'd be grateful. Okay, that's great. That's always good to know that you can hear me and the technology is working. So I will show the questions that I've got on the screen, so we know what we're talking about each time. But first of all, welcome to Lucy. Lucy, would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thanks Mike for inviting me to this series of webinars. So my name is Lucy Eckley from Build Your Brand Story. My background is in marketing communications, firstly employed for a number of years, corporate communications for big business, and then about 8 years ago I decided to break away from that world and set up my own consultancy, which I've been doing for ever since then. So it's 8 years now. So alongside that consulting business, working in communications, I now also advise independent consultants on how to build their own personal brand. So that's something I'm really passionate about. I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about today as to how to use your personality, your passion and your purpose to build a powerful brand around what you do.
Super. And again, thank you for joining us. Just a bit of background in terms of this series of webinars is an interview with, and the idea is to introduce to you a number of experts that we work with closely within our network, and Lucy's been helping us with our brand messaging and our communications over the last few months now and ongoing. So we've enjoyed working with Lucy, and hopefully you're going to also engage with her expertise today. So without further ado, let's have a look at the first question. So Lucy, in a competitive world, how can you stand out in your industry or profession?
So this is the challenge that we all face, whatever your industry or profession is, whatever stage you're at in your career, if you're employed, if you are working independently, there will be other people out there who have similar qualifications, similar professional experience to you. So the challenge is that then it can seem very competitive, very commoditized. So unless you differentiate yourself in some way, you run the risk of blending into the background without, giving your ideal clients a compelling reason to pick you rather than somebody else. So you need to make it really easy for the people that you want to work with to see what you stand for, who you are, and what you do. And the answer to that is building a powerful personal brand.
So very relevant then in terms of my question, because one of the things I know I talk to you a lot about is actually what is a personal brand and who needs one?
So the really good news is that you already have, all of us already have what we need to stand out from the crowd. And that's because of the human side of business. So people do business with people. We all know that. That's one of the oldest things in the book. So people want to know, like, and trust you. They want to know not just that you can do the job that they're going to hire you for, but they want to know what will you be like to work with? Will they get along with you? So the power that you have is in your uniqueness as a human being. And building a personal brand is really about using that uniqueness that you have to stand out from those that do something similar to you. So it's really, your personal brand is your reputation. It's how people remember you through what you do, through your expertise, through the unique personality that you bring to what you do. So we talked about people that do something similar to you. Yes, they might have the same career experience. They might even have similar life experiences to you, but they're not you. And your uniqueness and your personality actually means that the way that you work, the way that you deliver your product or your service, the way you work on projects will be totally unique to you. And there are ideal people out there, ideal clients or ideal employers that are the right people that you need to connect with when building your brand. So who needs a personal brand? So my specific expertise, as I said, is around working with this in the business to business space. So advising people often who've been in the corporate world for a number of years and are now setting up on their own, heading out into the world under their own brand. But actually everybody really in the working world needs to have a personal brand. So if you are running a business, then you absolutely need a strong personal professional brand to attract your ideal clients. If you are looking to build a career and maybe change employers, you need to build a strong personal brand so that you appeal to the ideal employers that you want to hire you. And if you're working in an organization that you want to stay in, you still need to build a personal brand so that you get invited to take part in projects that you want to within that organization and successfully grow your career there. So it's really, whatever your situation, it's about being memorable, getting somebody to pick you, involve you, whether that's a client or an employer. So I'm going to talk today probably about things that relate to business, but a lot of those things will also equally relatable to people who are in the employed world.
So can everybody have a personal brand, then, even if I work for a large corporate versus if I work for myself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that touches on one of the things that we'll talk about later, but it's how does it relate? So how does your personal brand relate to working with a large corporate? And even in my own business experience, I've worked with a lot of organisations over the years, and on the whole, I've worked with organisations where there's a good fit. But sometimes if your own personal values and your personal brand don't fit with that organisation so well, there's a bit of a disconnect. So a really good reason for why it's great to be aware of your personal brand, what's important to you, how you want to be perceived by others, because it actually helps determine if you are a good fit for that organisation that you work with.
Excellent, thank you, Lucy. So I know there's always, whatever event you go to or webinar you listen to, you hope to take away one nugget. And I know you're always willing to share tips and secrets. So my next question was really asking you to share that secret. So what is the secret to building a powerful personal brand?
So just following on from your question that you just raised, does everyone have a personal brand, or should everyone have a personal brand? And just before I get into the secret, then absolutely every one of us has a personal brand, even if we realise it or not, or even if we actively manage it. So if you go to a networking meeting, if you attend a client meeting, if you go to a job interview, you're making a first impression on those people. You're leaving them with an impression of you. Hopefully they're remembering you. Hopefully they're remembering you for the right reasons. So, like it or not, managing it or not, we all have a personal brand. The secret to building a successful brand is really to be intentional about it. It's not necessarily difficult, but it requires some thought, some planning, and some simple steps. So it's really like anything in business. It doesn't just happen by accident, or if it happens by accident, it won't be as planned as successful as you really want it to be. So the secret to be strategic and start actively managing how you're perceived by other people. And I break it down into 4 sections. So I just run through what those are initially, then I'll give a little bit more detail on those. So clarity, consistency, commitment, and communication. So clarity starts with getting a bit of deep digging really into who you are as a person, your personality is, what's important to you. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Then consistency is all important in branding. So we all experience this every day with the big brands that we are exposed to. We know instantly. So I'm just sitting here looking at the Zero banner that is in the CRM offices here. So everything I look at is a number of Zero things dotted around the office. As soon as I see the colour, as soon as I see the font, I see the messaging, I know it's zero. So that's just a big brand example that's sort of popped into my head. But everything is consistent, and that's the same consistency that as individuals we need to think of applying to our brand. So everything we do is starting to build that consistent image of ourselves. The third thing is commitment. So it's one thing to get started, it's another thing to continually take steps every single day to build your brand. And then the last element, the fourth secret, is about communication. So you can get everything else really clear. You can have the clarity on who you are, who you want your brand to appeal to. You can be brilliantly consistent, and you can be really committed to making a change. But unless the right people know about you, then your brand's going to be the best kept secret. How you communicate it to the people that matter is also really key.
Some great tips and a secret shared. And certainly, we've just finished a session where you've challenged me in my thinking. That's a great example of what you just alluded to. So, in terms of the next question, I suppose we alluded to this earlier. So, how does your personal brand fit with your business or your employer's brand?
So firstly, if you're running a business, particularly if you are running a business that's just you, or maybe you and a small team, which you're really kind of spearheading, your personal brand and your business brand are really inextricably linked. And for me, that's what's really, really exciting, particularly for those of us that have been in the corporate world and are now taking brave steps into our own ventures. Because really it's time to kind of strip away all the corporate branding that we've left behind, and it's the opportunity to really build a brand based around the things I've talked about, the uniqueness of personality, but also the uniqueness of experience. So all the things that really make you up as a person and make up how it is to deal with you and do business. So where it's your business, inextricably linked and really, really related. I touched on it before, where you're working for somebody else, it can be, there can be a great fit. You can also have a situation where, things don't feel quite right. You don't feel quite able to be yourself at work. You're maybe not producing your best work. And that can sometimes be when your personal values don't quite fit with the brand of the organisation that you're working with. And that's why being aware of your personal brand and what's really important to you and your style of working, etc., is really, really valuable, because it can then help you select. If you're looking for a job, that can help you select the right employers to approach. And if you're running a business, particularly a service business where you're working directly one-to-one with clients, it really helps you go and look for the right clients that are going to be a great fit for you and that are going to enjoy working with you and get the most from working with you.
Thanks, Lucy. I know we've got a mixed audience today, so just next couple of questions are really to look at probably the different levels of building that brand. So, first of all, how can you get started with building your personal brand?
So, firstly, the first thing is to take that decision to have a really planned and strategic approach. And then going back to the first of my four sort of phases, four elements, it's starting with clarity. So let me go into a little bit more detail around what I mean clarity. So firstly, clarity with you, and then clarity with your target audience. So a little bit of reflection, a little bit of exploration and thinking around who you are as a person. What do you stand for? What's really important to you? What do you do? What are your strengths? What are your superpowers? What is it that you bring to your professional world that really make a difference to people that you work with? And why? Why do you do that thing? Why have you chosen to specialize in it? So having a clear why, a clear vision, not only drives you to do your best work, it keeps you going when things are tough. It ensures that you're really doing something that you love doing. It also gives you a really compelling reason that clients or employers will want to work with you. So if you think about the opportunity, the choice of hiring somebody that ticks the boxes, they have the experience, they've got whatever it is the skill you're looking to hire. And then you've got somebody that ticks all those boxes, but clearly absolutely loves their work. There's something really irresistible about that. So I know who I would pick. I'd pick the person that clearly was passionate. So show your passion for what you do and show your personality. Then the really important thing to remember, because building your brand is part of your marketing strategy, and the really important next step is to get really clear on your audience for that brand. So for anybody that follows the marketer Seth Godin, he says everybody is not your customer. And that's the trap that we often fall into, especially if we're getting started, if we're leaving the corporate world and looking for clients from the beginning. You know, and I made this mistake myself, totally put my hands up with all my marketing background. When I first started as a consultant, there are so many different ways that I can use my communications expertise, and I just kind of branded myself as a freelance communications consultant, which is great, but doesn't really tell anybody what I do. So you need to get really, really clear on who is the audience for your brand. So to use the example, the business-to-business example, is getting super clear on who your ideal clients are. Who do you want to be working with every day? Who's going to best benefit from what it is that you do? And then you need to be able to articulate what is it that you bring to those people? How do you help them? How do you help them solve their challenges, achieve their goals and aspirations? What outcomes do they get from working with you? And once you've kind of worked through that clarity phase, then it's time to think about the consistency that I mentioned. So how do you show up? How do you show up every time you have the opportunity to get in front of those ideal clients? So I want to talk about the visual stuff to start with, because we've come over the years to think about branding as visual stuff and logos. So it's important, even as an individual in the professional space, that you're showing up visually in a consistent way. That means the same style of images, a professional headshot on your social media profiles. That way you have a website, you're using consistent fonts, consistent colours. So it's all the visual stuff that we come to associate with branding. Even actually down to how you present yourself. So I'm sure we've all been to meetings where we've ended up, or any kind of thing, a social event, party, you end up wearing something you don't feel quite comfortable. So it's even down to thinking about what style of dress fits you as a person, fits how you want to appear, so that you always feel 100% comfortable in you and like you're portraying the right image. But moving on from the visual side of things, branding and your personal brand in particular is obviously about way more than the visual stuff. So it's about every single experience that people have with you. So from that initial meeting to onboarding them, working with you, to meetings that you have. And it's so basic, but it's all your stuff like turning up on time, following up, doing what you say you do. It's really how you deliver everything that you do for the clients. And that's really where the consistency starts, and it really getting clear on who you are, who you want to reach with this brand, and then starting to apply it consistently is a really great way to get started.
And that's certainly something that I see often as businesses that consider their brand touch point one, but then forget about that brand representation through the other pieces that you talk about in terms of onboarding, etc. So again, some good advice. So I know a couple of people on the attendee list have sort of started to think about their personal brand. So my question here is, how can you take your personal brand to the next level?
So taking it to the next level is again, it's all about having a plan, and it's all about this is the hard work. So this is the getting over that. Oh, I've got my clarity. I know what I stand for. And getting maybe your website design, getting your social media profile set up. That can be quite exciting. The hard work comes when you have to stick at this day in, day out. So it's really having a plan, knowing how you want to be portrayed, and taking literally daily steps to achieving that. Showing up every day as your brand. even on days when it's tough. So I think there are things that we do to build a brand, and I'm going to touch on this communication in a minute, but you have to show up as your best self in everything that you deliver every day. So obviously, all of us prioritize our client delivery, but taking your brand to the next level requires you to do those things that are maybe over and above your day-to-day commitments. Like I said, I'm going to touch on that in communications in a minute, but just around how you get the commitment and how you can personally commit to doing this. It's quite hard sometimes to do it on your own when you are wearing so many hats in your business, juggling so many different things when you are literally running everything. So this is where it can be sometimes good to get some help. So whether it's through a coach or a mentor, whether it's joining a mastermind group where a group of peers, business owners get together and work on some of their business challenges, not just relating to branding, but if you've got those elements covered and you've got people supporting you, much easier to then free up time to concentrate on those marketing things and branding issues that you don't may not ordinarily get around to. Or just get some accountability, even with a friend or a colleague or somebody who is going through something similar, somebody to really keep you on track and help you stay committed. So really related to the commitment and the daily steps and really showing up is how you communicate your personal brand. So as I said, you can do all the other elements, but unless the people that need to know about you, then you won't have the impact that you want. So some examples here are really using your networking to grow your brand, but in a targeted way. So for those of you that love networking, as I do, I'm sure we know that we can fall into a trap of going to it and having a great time, but not necessarily being strategic about what we want to achieve. It's about finding the right networks to engage with, to grow your brand and start raising your reputation amongst the people that you want to reach. It's about having quality branded collateral, for want of a better word, so online and offline. So again, that consistency coming through in your communication. So having a website or a blog that's up to date, that's consistent visually, that you're really proud of. So there's nothing worse than going to a networking event and knowing that your website's a bit out of date or it doesn't quite follow the rebrand that you've recently done. Having great quality business cards. Again, none of these things have to cost a lot of money, but it's just making sure that they're professional and consistent. And then, really, really, really key point is about sharing your knowledge and demonstrating your expertise. So lots of people get worried about giving away valuable content. They think if they give it away, you won't come and work with them. But really key thing to building your brand. Again, if you're working in a business or looking to be an expert in your industry, really important to take the opportunity to show what you can do and what knowledge you can share with people, whether that's because you're good at writing and you want to blog, or whether you're more comfortable on camera or talking on an audio basis, then finding the way to really get across what you do, because that will really enhance your personal brand.
I know from our work together in terms of having that plan, and yeah, it has been harder work than I thought actually, because I thought we were quite clear on our sort of audience and our message. I think you've sort of really kept us focused in terms of making sure it's more engaging and people relate to our brand consistently.
And I think it's something that also evolves as well. So that's probably a key thing with all of this, is that your personal brand will evolve, your business will evolve. And so it's something that you do as an exercise at a point in time, but it's also something to revisit regularly as well.
Okay, so at this point, I'll just remind everybody that you're welcome to add to the chat any questions that you may wish to ask Lucy yourself. So if you have got a question that perhaps is an area you wanted to come along and listen to, but we're not covering at the moment, then please do put your question in there and we'll ask that to Lucy and break up my questions. So my next question then for Lucy is, what is your brand story and where does it fit in?
So brand story. So there's a lot of talk about the storytelling at the moment. And brand story, and I hear a lot of people sort of say, well, your brand story is just really your about page on your website. And that's one view. But to share with you my view of what a brand story is, it's much more than that. And I think it's massively important to you as an individual and to your business. So for me, the brand story is the narrative. It's the communications framework, if you like, that supports your overall brand. So it tells people the things that we've talked about. It puts into words why you're in business, what your business stands for, how you help people, what makes you different. So it includes your backstory. So that's a really important element of your personal brand. What has made you the professional person that you are today? So why did you choose to do what you do? What business experience have you had? What life experiences have you had that have brought you to being where you are in your professional life today? And I guarantee you that will not be 100% the same as anybody else. And that's the stuff that makes you stand out. It makes somebody reading it think, oh yeah, this is an interesting person. I'd like to get to know them better, and I think I could work with that person. Your brand story, from my perspective, there isn't just about you. It's about every element of your business, and that it includes other people involved in your business. So some of the most important other people in your business are your clients. So for me, included in your brand story is how you work with clients. So it's the things I mentioned that you get clear on in your branding clarity is who you work with, how you help them, what they get from working with you. So that's something that's so important to articulate. And really you can relate that again to running a business or working with an employer. What would they get from hiring you? So, your brand story includes case studies and testimonials because it's all helping to tell the story of your brand and your business. So alongside, it sort of goes hand in hand. It's a really important part of devising your overall brand. So it involves a little bit of thought planning. Again, like I said, everything in business, it involves a little bit of that to get the impact that you need. But once you've done it, it's something that you can use literally every time you speak or write about your business. You can literally scale it down to your elevator pitch or your 2-minute intro, and you can use it across your whole website. So that's where I always say people will use that story that their unique story in entirety on a website in a different
place. Okay, so one thing that's very personal to me, because I love social media, is how can you use social media to help you?
So social media is really your friend, I think, when it comes to building a personal brand, or it should be. So I can't really imagine what the world was like building a personal brand before social media. So if you think about how that would have been, it was very much, I guess you were limited to your local geography, to your existing networks to a certain extent, and to face-to-face contact that you had with people. Now, social media really gives you the opportunity to build your personal brand globally, if you want to. I mean, look at the celebrities that have got massive followings. There are also business people and experts in their field that have massive followings on social media. So, what's the opportunity is to demonstrate your expertise, share your thought leadership. So the things I was talking about earlier, blogging, videos, audio, etc. You need to find a way for people to access the content that you create, and social media is really your way to share that widely, but share that in a targeted way with the kind of people that you want to find it. It also, the really great thing about social media is that it really helps build that know, like, and trust factor. So the fact that people want to know about you, particularly if they're going to hire you on a one-to-one basis, they really want to know a little bit about who you are, what you like to work with, and you can give great behind-the-scenes review of what you do in your business. So an example I often give around this is a photographer. So people often think, gosh, I'm hiring a photographer and it's costing me X amount. So they see, the half day or whatever that the photographer is working with for. But what they don't see is all the editing the photographer does behind the scenes. And so a really great example of social media is how to really go behind the scenes and bring people into your business and show them some of the stuff that goes on in your business they don't know about. Obviously, the flip side is it can be really overwhelming. It can also be a really massive time suck that can take you away from really important things you need to be doing. So a few tips. Pick the right channels. So pick if we're probably looking at, the main four that you're going to be thinking about: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And so pick one that you have a natural affinity to, that you just think the way it works for you and your personality, and one that works for your target audience. So knowing who those ideal clients are for your personal brand, where are you going to engage with those people? So if you take the example of looking for a new job, then LinkedIn is probably the place that you're going to focus for that. Equally, if you want to build your reputation as an expert in your industry, as a consultant, for example, LinkedIn and Twitter, great places to start. So if you get those two things right, so things that work for you and the right place for your target audience, you'll find it easier to keep going with your social media, because again, it's that commitment, consistency factor that's really hard, but you'll also find it easier to get the results that you want. So choose one or two channels, do them really well, rather than be tempted to scatter yourself across everything. And back to the consistency, make sure that you've got the same profile picture on all the channels you use. Make sure you've got the same bio on all. So people will find you in different ways. They need to know immediately they find you that you're the same person that they met at the networking event last week, for example. And one really important thing in social media is just remember its kind of pitfalls. So for this personal brand that you spent ages building up, don't let one moment, rash tweet, destroy your brand. I'm sure you can all think of people that after, a glass of wine too many or whatever, they tweet something that they regret, because once it's out there, it's out there. So just remember to keep your professional head on all your social channels, I guess.
In terms of consistency, would the language you use in each social media platform be the same in terms of consistency, or would it be more towards the audience using that platform?
Yeah, I think you can keep your language consistent. So it's great that you mentioned language, because that's another really important element of branding, and it's an element that people often forget because they focus on the visual side. So your language will remain relatively consistent because it's the language that represents you, your brand, and your personality. It's the language that speaks to your ideal clients. I think how you actually use it, just by the nature of the different channels, will change a little bit. So if I use the LinkedIn and Twitter examples, so obviously even though Twitter now has double the characters it used to, you still don't have a lot of space. So you've got to be quite short and punchy on Twitter, and quite conversational. LinkedIn, no reason to be stuffy and formal on LinkedIn just because it's the professional network, but you do have a little bit more space there. So you can write a little bit more kind of long form sentences.
Okay, thank you. I think this is a question that, again, really wanted to ask you for your opinion on. Is it possible to show your personality and still be professional?
Well, I think you'll probably know what my answer to this is going to be, because if I said no, then I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. So my answer to this is, of course, yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I think it's something that I encourage everybody to sort of show your personality and be yourself. Because let's face it, how many hours do we spend at work, whether it's at someone else's workplace or running on a business? And if we're spending a significant amount of our lives not being ourselves, then I think that's the waste of being able to really sort of fully be ourselves. And also, trying to be somebody that you're not is exhausting, and people also see through it. So if you really want to be the best at what you do, then being authentic is just, I think, kind of non-negotiable. Now, a couple of caveats around that, I suppose. One is that thankfully the business world, I think, is coming around to this. So big organisations I work with at the moment, I see a lot of diversity and inclusion work going on. where the inclusion element really does recognise the fact that people have different styles of working, they have different times of the day that they're productive, they have different personalities, they have different communication styles. So big business is coming around to the fact that we are different. I appreciate that we don't all work places where we can fully embrace our personality. Where we're running our own business, then again, it's just this massive opportunity to really use it. And then my other caveat to that, I guess, is that two things. One is to remember that you're in control. So if you're talking personality, I'm also talking personal elements of your life that sort of make up who you are. You can always choose how much of that you choose to share. So how much you choose to share about your personal life or your family or whatever. And then the other thing is absolutely show a little bit of who you are, be natural, but you probably still, you still have the professional version of your personality. So you will probably behave slightly differently in a client meeting to how you would with your friends in a pub, for example. So you might use very slightly different language and the topics might be slightly different. So there's a bit of a blurring between work and personal life, but there's also probably some compartments as well. That's my view on it.
I guess it's easier when people run their own business rather than working within a corporate. So it comes back to, I'm glad you didn't say it depends on your personality. I think it really comes back to the message you said earlier in terms of, does your personality fit that business in terms of style, values, etc. So last couple of questions. A reminder, if you've got a question, please drop that into the chat box. So, Lucy, how do you build your reputation as a trusted advisor or a go-to expert?
So I think this really fits so well with branding because the title trusted advisor or expert is not really something that you can apply to yourself, or I don't feel that it is. So, and guru is even worse. But where I see people actually calling themselves this, I think that's absolutely fine. But the strongest way of being seen as a trusted advisor or expert, it really has to be bestowed on you by the people that view you as such. And obviously that's part of building your reputation and building your brand, because that's about how people view you. So how do you go about that? So you go about that partly by building the personal brand and going through those 4 elements, so the clarity, consistency, commitment, and communication. But it's really about doing then all of those to the absolute ultimate degree. So if you want to be seen as one of those things, known as one of those things, then you really have to, particularly in the consistency, commitment, and communication, really be prepared to invest time, effort, possibly some resources, and be in it for the long term. So it means, from a consistency point of view, consistently delivering on your A game. So really being known for somebody that delivers an excellent service, brings something different that they can't get elsewhere. It also means about continuing to learn in your specialism. So by advisor or expert, we're thinking about people that are probably working as a consultant or providing some kind of service. So being aware that we need to stay up to date with what happens in our industry. So we may have left, like me, I left 8 years ago, corporate world. I'm now fully responsible for investing in my own training and development, making sure that I stay up to date with what's happening in my industry and communications specialism. And then alongside that is really the massive opportunity, and the people that really attract this kind of status is people that really do commit to demonstrating their expertise. So it's the content marketing that we talked about writing articles, about podcasting, about getting guest opportunities on other people's podcasts, etc. Talking, so giving keynote speeches, giving talks, and all of these things, they start where you're at. So they start with your local network. They start with small groups and getting expertise and experience in doing these things. so that you can ultimately work up to doing some of those bigger things and writing a book. So there's a challenge. So I haven't done that one yet, but there's no excuse for any of us really these days if we have expertise in an area that self-publishing has really massively opened that up.
Do you feel we've got a book in you?
I definitely have a book in me. Yes, it will happen one of these days, definitely.
And I think the reason I asked that question, I think there's so much competitive nature for this title of trusted advisor, and I love what you're saying. It's not what people think that they are, the trusted advisor, whether that's a banker, a coach, an accountant, whatever it may be. It's about their client's perception of you being that. So my final question is that what's the one thing we can do today to start building our personal brand?
So I think the one thing you can start to do today, start to build your personal brand, is to make that decision to actively own your brand and actively control the direction that you want it to go in, to be you and to stand out and to be different. And I think that's something that typically when we were growing up, when we were at school, when we were teens, when we were, sort of maybe young adults, it was the last thing that we wanted to do was to be different. We wanted to fit in. But when it comes to building a personal brand in a professional space where you want to be known for what you do and you want the right people to be coming to your door and wanting to work with you, then, fitting in is probably the last thing you want to do. So yes, you want to be aware of how other people in your industry are presenting themselves, so you know how you compare. But don't be too tempted to follow everybody else too closely. So that would be my parting thing. My one thing for you is take that bold decision to really embrace your uniqueness, embrace your strengths, and actively decide to build your professional brand around it.
Thank you, Lucy. And that one thing is certainly useful. I know, probably going back a couple of years ago now, you did a webinar for me for a membership organisation I ran. And I remember that being quite a key thing you spoke about, and I really differentiated my personal brand from the businesses I represented, and they've certainly seen the benefits for me and the businesses I've represented since. So thank you for that. Thank you for the tips. So last invitation for anybody to add any questions. Whilst we're waiting to see if there's any questions coming in, Lucy, is there anything else that you wanted to add today?
Just that, to reiterate what I said, it does take a little bit of an effort, it takes a little bit of planning, but not really a huge amount. And it's something that, if you are in business, you can really do alongside your business planning. It's just a massively important part of your marketing strategy. But absolutely well worth the investment. And if you do follow some of those steps in a relatively short space of time, you can really start to see the impact.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions, I'll end the interview with Lucy Eckley today. So thank you all for joining us this morning. Huge thanks for Lucy for joining us, especially for obviously sharing her expertise, knowledge and experience in this, in my mind, important area. On the screen you can see some contact details. Underlined is Lucy's website and her mobile contact number. But ideally go to the website. There's a download on the website where you can get a bit more information about the information there. But I certainly would engage you to take a look at the download, certainly. So thank you for joining us today. We've got other events coming up in July. If you want to know what webinars, seminars, workshops we've got coming up, please do follow our events page on our website, which will have all the details and the link to sign up to those events. So thank you again for joining us. Enjoy the rest of the day. And believe it or not, it's coming home. Enjoy the semi-final. Bye now.